I caught my wife cheating in our living room. They saw me, but ignored my presence and continued as if nothing had happened. I stood there, frozen by what I was witnessing. They carried on without a care in the world, desecrating the couch in my home, right before my eyes. The betrayal unfolded with no remorse, but it was my reaction in that moment that turned the entire situation around. Earlier that day I had been on edge. Karen, my wife of 11 years, had told me to meet her at Hervis Adderall at 3 p.m. I knew the bar would be practically empty at that time, and whatever she had to say wouldn't be celebratory. Something felt off. Hervis Adderall was where we first met 13 years ago. I had a bad feeling. I suspected she was cheating on me with a coworker and feared this would be the moment she would break the news. There had been signs. Late nights at the office where she worked as the boss's secretary, disinterest in our bed, at least with me, new provocative clothes in her wardrobe that she never wore around me, and an increasing lack of communication. We barely talked anymore even during meals which she had mostly stopped attending. The kids, Max 9 years old and Megan 10 years old, and I would eat together, while she always had some flimsy excuse and maybe brought back dessert from the store for the kids. Her disregard for me was one thing. It hurt, but leaving the kids out of her life, that really pissed me off. When I pulled into the parking lot of Hervis Adderall, there were only a few cars. I decided to stay calm. If she was going to say what I suspected, I needed to keep my cool. I figured she'd tell me everything based on a conversation I had partially overheard 2 nights earlier. Yes, okay, I agree. Tuesday, right? Yes. I'll take him there. Well, it was Tuesday 3 p.m. and here we were. I sat in the car for a few moments thinking, what if she was with the bastard? What should I do? Then, advice from my father years ago flashed through my mind. He had served me well more than once in business. Don't do anything, son, unless you know what to do. Don't say anything. Let your antagonist figure it out. The less you speak, the more they'll worry. If they worry, they're vulnerable, and you can make your plans at a time and place of your choosing. Remember, if you open your mouth, they'll know exactly what you're thinking, even if you don't realize it. Just shut up and walk away. Settle things later when you've got all the facts in your plan in place. I smiled. God, how I loved that man. I knew he was looking out for me at that very moment. I said a silent prayer of thanks for his advice. Inside, I saw her sitting at the bar with a man I didn't recognize. But that wasn't too surprising. My company, EMA Incorporated, which I founded 10 years ago, demanded all of my time during the day, and I rarely had a chance to mingle with her coworkers. I was an electrical engineer, and my company designed wiring and other electrical schemes for a dozen construction firms that require my services. I walked up to them. She sensed my presence and turned around. Hello, she said. It wasn't a hi or a kiss on the cheek, just a plain hello. Mark, dear, I said deliberately. What's going on? The man turned and stared at me. Mr. Steinbeck. Or would you prefer I call you Mark? I'm sorry. We brought you here today to inform you that your wife and I have been lovers for some time. She's made it clear she's tired of hiding and making excuses, so I convinced her to just tell you. As I mentioned, I was somewhat prepared for this, and the recorder in my coat pocket gave me an advantage. I hoped I was capturing everything. I waited, said nothing. After all, Dad was looking out for me, and I didn't want to make him mad by doing something stupid. Mark, Karen asked, hoping I'd say something, but I remained silent. She must have assumed I was in shock or something, so she continued. Mark, it's been so hard hiding this from you. I don't want to hurt you. I have no intention of leaving you. It's just that, well, the intimacy with Jason is too good to give up. I hope you can understand. I just can't hide this from you any longer. You deserve to know, she said. I wasn't sure if she realized how idiotic her argument sounded. Karen never finished college for obvious reasons, but I had never really thought of her as stupid until that moment. As for the military genius she was replacing me with, well, enough said. I walked to the end of the bar, where the bartender was trying not to listen to what he couldn't avoid overhearing. I ordered whatever was on tap. He brought it over and I drank silently. The two of them watched me. I could see the confusion on their faces. I finished my beer and left. I could feel their eyes on me as I exited the building. For the first time in months I felt good. Maybe I was imagining things, but I definitely felt like I had the upper hand. I went straight home. The kids would be waiting for me. I kissed them and told them it would be a fun weekend for them. They cheered and celebrated, and we went out for ice cream. I told them about the plan I had formulated earlier that day. They would stay with their Aunt Susan and Uncle Dak for the weekend. They loved my sister and brother-in-law, and the feeling was mutual. Susan and her husband, a former Army Ranger, couldn't have children, so Max and Megan were their favorite people in the world. I knew Susan and Dak were going camping that weekend, and now the kids would go with them. This would give me the time I needed to take care of things. "Everything all right, Mark?" Dak asked. The man had an impressive knack for sensing things. "Honestly, no," I said. "I'm divorcing Karen. The kids don't know yet." "I figured," he said, surprising me. "I've noticed a few things. Susan has too. In fact, Karen tried to seduce me last Christmas. I turned her down. She made a joke to cover it up, but I wasn't fooled. Susan made me promise not to tell." "You?" I asked, stunned. "I didn't know," I said. "It's fine. I'm just grateful you're here to take care of the kids for a few days. I need time to put my plans in order," I told Dak. "Listen, Mark. If you need anything, I'm here." "Thanks, Dak. I'll keep that in mind, but I think I can handle this. It's gonna be messy, but I have proof. And this isn't a no-fault divorce state, so suing them shouldn't be an issue. After I leave here, I'm going straight to Henry's to get the process started." Henry Morgan was the sharp, experienced lawyer for my company. By all accounts, he was at least 70 years old, but still sharp as a tack. He knew every judge and every valuable lawyer in the state, if not the whole town. Karen couldn't ignore what I was capable of doing if I found out she was cheating. She must have thought she could control the narrative by being upfront about her affair, thinking it would soften the blow. But her logic was flawed. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. She was scared of me finding out and using it against her. Well, I was gonna do just that. "Yes, Henry, that's right," I said after showing up at his house unannounced and surprising him. I handed him the recording and the name of the bartender who witnessed the whole bizarre encounter with my wife and her dirtbag lover just hours before. "Okay, I'll have subpoenas delivered to both of them by Monday," Henry said. "You heading home now?" "Yeah, I think so. I don't want to tip her off too soon. I'll kick her out as soon as you let me know." "They've been served." "All right, Malcolm will interview the witness and get him to sign a statement tomorrow, even though it's Sunday. Speed is everything in this business. Hit hard, hit fast, and leave them confused and in the dust, I always say." "I love how that man thought. I like the way you think. I'm used." "Mark, I'm sorry about your marriage, especially for Max and Megan. If you need anything." "Thanks, Henry. I appreciate it." I left feeling really good. I had Henry, a pit bull of a lawyer, handling everything. Now all I had to do was sit back and let the storm unfold. I told Henry not to give her a single thing. She'd get nothing. He said that wouldn't be a problem. With any other lawyer, I'd probably have to give her half of everything. But Henry said that her actions, as proven by the recording, would give him leverage to crush her in court. If Henry said it was true, then I knew for sure it was. I felt better and better as I drove home, possibly for the last weekend I'd spend with my soon-to-be ex-wife. When I arrived, I was shocked to see a strange car in the driveway. It had to be Jason's. It was getting dark, and I wondered if I'd be lucky enough to snap a few photos of the lovers. I parked a few houses down and crept toward the house as quietly as possible. The lights were off. As I got closer, I saw Rex, my neighbor, walking his dog, Leo. Rex was a cop. I stood next to the strange car and Rex saw me. He waved and I waved back. "Have you seen his car?" I asked. I was happy to have another witness. I noted down the idiot's license plate. I'd give it to Henry the next day, along with Rex's name and address. Maybe I'd even get some photos if I was lucky. I walked into the yard, pretending I was just grabbing the trash cans to take out. The back door was unlocked, so I slipped in quietly to take my pictures. They were in the front living room. I took out my phone and snapped photos through the sliding glass doors. Thank God for modern cell phones. Jason was having sex with her from behind while she knelt on the couch. I took about 10 photos. Then, I walked loudly through the sliding glass door. They heard me, turned to look, and continued doing what they were doing. I went upstairs in disbelief at their audacity. I waited about 15 minutes, then heard the front door open and close, followed by the roar of Jason's engine as he drove away. I waited another minute or two before heading back downstairs. As I passed the downstairs bathroom, I heard the shower running. I poured myself a cup of coffee and waited. This was going to be interesting. 10 minutes later, she joined me. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. I didn't say anything. I just sipped my coffee and waited for her to say something meaningful. I was concerned that she didn't even think to ask about the kids. This woman was not the same person I married over a decade ago. "Mark, we need to talk. The kids are at my sister's house." "I thought you want to know." "What?" I asked. "Oh yeah, I noticed they weren't here when I got home." She looked confused. "Look, are you okay? I just wanted to be honest with you. I didn't like keeping things from you. You're a good man and you deserve better. It's just physical, Mark, just physical. I won't deny you anything when we're together. Jason knows that and he's fine with it. He's a good man. It was his idea not to hide anything from you anymore." I couldn't resist. "So, I get to have sex with my legally wedded wife and Jason's okay with that? Wow, how generous of him. Don't be sarcastic, Mark. Honesty is always the best policy. You know that," she said. She actually said that. Apparently, breaking her marriage vows was an exception to that rule. I had to smile. I couldn't help it. "Mark, for God's sake, say something," she demanded. "What do you want me to say? If I asked you to call him right now and end it, would you?" "No." "Then there's nothing to say except that, yes, you're right. I deserve better." I was laughing inside, but outwardly I remained calm, almost reflective. "You're not a cuckold or anything," she said. "You're my husband and a great father, and I love you. Spare me, Karen. I'm leaving. Don't wait up." I had to get out of there. I couldn't stand being around her anymore. She was dead to me. By Monday it would all be over and she'd be history. Retracing my steps from earlier in the day, I went back to her Cabrera. The same bartender was on duty. I leaned on the counter and took a seat at the end of the bar. The place was busier now, especially for a Tuesday night. I ordered a beer and asked the guy what was going on, pointing to the crowd. "Ladies' night and the wolves are out," he said, nodding toward the far corner. The lighting was dim, but I saw him, Jason, making out with one of the ladies. So, the cheater was cheating on the other cheater. Why wasn't I surprised? Maybe he wasn't cheating on the other cheater, or maybe she knew he had other interests. I had heard something earlier about this. "If you need a witness, just let me know," the bartender said. "Thanks, I might need that," I replied. "My wife did the same to me a few years ago," he said, a bit of sympathy in his voice. "I didn't have anyone to back me up, so I got screwed over in court. But at least I got to keep this place. I guess that's something. It would be nice if half of what I make didn't go to child support." We chatted intermittently over the next few hours. I made a mental note to talk to Henry about possibly helping this guy get some justice if he helped me nail Romeo and Juliet. Sometimes, suckers have to stick together. Jason never noticed me at the bar. I managed to snap a few good photos of him with his new fling. I'd save them for later to show my wife, just in case she thought she was his one and only. But that could wait until the big reveal on Monday. I got home around midnight, having shared half a dozen cups of coffee with Joe after closing. He lived upstairs from the bar with no place to go, so he was a perfect candidate for some late-night conversation. I liked the guy, and besides, he was an excellent bartender, which was a big plus in my book. I was furious with Karen, but I still wanted to sleep in my own bed, not in the damn guest room. There's something special about a man's bed. It's sacred. Karen knew that about me, and maybe that's why she had sex with her lover in the living room instead of upstairs. I slipped in a bed beside her. She was awake, and I felt her hand reach for mine. I pushed it away sharply, turned over and went to sleep. She seemed to do the same. The light coming through the gaps in the curtains woke me up. It was almost 8 a.m., and I could smell bacon frying in the kitchen. I got up, showered, dressed, and went downstairs. She was in a good mood. I guess she thought everything was fine, or at least that our marriage wasn't doomed. "Hi. Did you sleep okay?" she asked cheerfully. "Good morning," I said. "Smells good." And it did. I was hungry. It might have been the last day of our married life, but that didn't mean it had to be a miserable one. Tomorrow, all hell would break loose, but today was going to be a good day. I just knew it. "I'm staying home all day for you," she said, as if she was doing me a special favor. "And if you behave, maybe you'll get really lucky later," she added with a laugh. I didn't know whether to laugh or vomit. How could this cheating witch pretending to be my wife actually believe I'd consciously accept what she was trying to sell me? I just laughed back at her. "I need to take the car to the shop later this morning. The brakes need to be replaced." "Oh, I thought maybe we could." I needed to find a way to avoid her, and that wouldn't be easy. I didn't want to be around her, but I could tolerate it if I had to. Keeping her off balance before Monday was the priority. Before heading out for the brake repair, which was true, I placed my small sound-activated voice recorder near the kitchen phone. I figured if she called him, she'd use that phone. I was right. About 3 hours later I returned, retrieved the recorder while she was taking out the trash, and went to my office to listen. It was painful to hear her say she loved him. That hurt, especially because I knew he didn't care about her. I could hardly wait to show her the time-stamped photos I took of him with the other woman the night before. That would throw a wrench in her plans. "Hi, it's me." "Yeah, he went out to do something with the car." "I don't know, Jason. He might not want to." Yes, I'll try. He loves me, so maybe, but okay, I understand. I just don't want to lose him. I don't know, maybe we've gone too far, rubbing this in his face like this." "I know." Okay, bye. "I love you too." I sat in my office, dumbfounded. I had married an idiot. It was embarrassing. I wasn't even sure I wanted to divorce her anymore. How could someone so stupid be held accountable for their actions? But no, the pain was too deep, and the audacity of those two made reconciliation impossible. And then there were the kids. She clearly didn't care about them, and that was unforgivable. I left the house before she even woke up the next morning. It was Monday and her time was up. First, I went to the office to let my secretary Elizabeth know I'd be out for the rest of the day. Being the boss had its perks. My first stop was Henry's office. He had news. Malcolm, his part-time private investigator, had dug up some information on Romeo. Turns out Jason was married with 6 kids, believe it or not, and his wife owned the family home and the money. She was 10 years older than him and apparently had no idea about his affairs. I instructed Henry to destroy him. 2. I handed him the latest recording and the photos. He grinned at that. I also mentioned that this might be a special job for him and Malcolm after the dust settled. I knew Susan and Dak would take the kids to school. What I dreaded was having to talk to them later that day. But there was no avoiding it. It had to be done. Henry had arranged for both lovers to be served with papers. There was a restraining order preventing either of them from coming back to the house. The papers would be served just before lunch. I asked Henry to make it as public and embarrassing as possible. I wanted them to suffer. I also asked him to provide all the evidence we had to Jason's wife. What she did with it was up to her. I wanted to be there when my wife got served. And then I thought, why not? I was in the hallway when the process server arrived. I didn't know him and he didn't know me. So he just walked past me and went straight to the office where my wife worked. "Excuse me, are you Karen Steinbeck?" he asked. "Yes, that's me," she said, smiling. I watched from the doorway. She didn't see me at first as she was facing the process server. He handed her a manila envelope. "You've been served," he said. Her face went dark. She looked at the envelope in her hand and opened it. She screamed and began to cry, then collapsed into her chair. Her boss, who was leaving at that moment, saw the scene and tried to console her. I became more visible as I stepped into the room and Karen saw me. Her eyes widened. "Mark, why?" I couldn't resist. "Sorry again, Dad. I thought to myself, like you said, I deserve something better." Then I walked out. I wasn't there to witness it, but I heard later that Jason had been served the same way. He fainted when he realized his life was essentially over. He eventually lost everything: his wife, his kids, his home, his job, everything. I was wrong about one thing. Karen wasn't the biggest fool in the world. She was just the second biggest. A few days later I sat in Henry's office, sipping some hot coffee. "So, do you think you can help him since it's been so long?" I asked. "Yeah, I think so. The lady has plenty of skeletons in the closet, and is more than willing to renegotiate the divorce terms to keep them hidden. We can probably even eliminate the alimony," Henry replied. "Mark, have you forgotten already?" "I can do anything," Henry laughed. "Point taken." I chuckled with him. Later that day I was sitting at the bar at Hervé Sordera, chatting with my new friend Gus. "If what you say is true, you'll never have to pay for another beer here again," Gus said. "I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, especially after she rubbed this whole thing in my face so badly," I replied. "I'm just happy to help," I said. Karen ended up getting nothing from our marriage, but miraculously she wasn't fired. She had been with her boss so long that he let the indiscretion slide. Jason, however, was history, as I mentioned before. I met with Karen the day after the big reveal. There was something I wanted to give her. I knew there was a chance I'd have to listen to her beg and plead, but it would be worth it. "Mark, isn't there any way? I mean, for the kids?" she asked, playing the only card she had left. I knocked it right out of her hand. "You haven't shown any interest in the kids for months, Karen. That boyfriend of yours has had all your attention. He's a good man. He's a lot like you in many ways. I think that's why I fell for him in the first place. He loves me too. That's why we tried so hard to make you understand that it was all for you. That we gave ourselves to each other body and soul for your sake. And now you've decided to destroy us all, including the kids. How could you?" Her tears came again, but this time they really made me angry. She was making it seem like everything was my fault. God, I was furious. "Mark, it's not too late. There's still something between us if you want it. I know I can make Jason understand that you have needs too. You'll still be my number one. You're the father of my kids. How could it be any other way? Jason's just an addition. He's not part of us. I can make you a very happy man if you give me the chance." I was nearly speechless. I couldn't even be angry. It was beyond stupidity. This wasn't just foolishness. It was idiocy. She actually believed her own lies. She needed help, but someone else would have to give it to her. She was history to me. "Karen, I came here today for two reasons. First, I'm going to allow you unrestricted visits with the kids, but never with your lovers. I'll give you some money to help you get a new apartment. But after that you'll have to fend for yourself. The condition for my generosity is that you don't contest the divorce in any way. If you do, I'll hit you with everything I have. And Karen, you have no idea what I'm capable of. Is that clear?" She stared at me, still clinging to the hope that I might take her back and be okay with her continuing her affair. She was going to need help. "Second, there's this," I said, pushing a manila folder toward her. "Please check the dates at the bottom of the photographs. They were the photos I had taken on Saturday night of Jason and his new fling." She opened the folder and stared at the pictures. "But these are from Saturday night. You're not his true love, Karen. You never were. He's a player. Is that a good run?" I said. I stood up, threw a $20 bill on the table for the waitress, and walked out. Karen was crying tears of despair as I left the building. Reddit comment, **. Wow, what a story, right? I'm amazed by how calm and intelligent the OP was in handling such a complicated situation. Seriously, I don't know if I could have kept my cool in the face of so much betrayal and disrespect. What really struck me was how she thought he'd just accept everything like it was nothing. But in the end he showed who was really in control and walked out of that mess with his head held high. What about you? What would you do in his place? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.